Hey guys, Kenny here, Ken Small Engines. We are here decorating for Halloween. Jessica's over, Mrs. Potty Mouth is outside. We're decorating with lights and everything else. But what I have here today is a Husqvarna Rancher 455. And what happened with this is the guy never oiled the needle bearing. So what happened was he melted the clutch, he melted the oil pinion onto the clutch drum, literally melted it on, okay? Wasn't oiling. Look at how blue that is. Look at the needle bearing. Destroyed it. Welded it onto the shaft. Totally destroyed it. It locked the engine up. He couldn't start it. He couldn't pull it. So I had to order a new clutch, a new drum, and a new oil pinion. Now the drum comes with the needle bearing, and the total for the three parts for all that, a whopping $102. So OEM parts. We bought the clutch drum 537291604. And the drum came with the pinion bearing. We ordered the clutch, which is 5371105-3, and we ordered, it comes with the needle bearing inside the package, 503255201, and you hear Mrs. Potty Mouth and Jessica in the background, but that's okay. Hopefully my mic drowns it out. And the pump pinion, 598718301. That is the all-elusive part. That took me 4 months to get. But here's the issue I had. The shaft itself had all kinds of pickup on it from the bearing, meaning it had like welded on metal all around it. So what I did was I stoned it with a stone, got off all the high spots. I went with 240 paper and I sanded it down to make sure it was nice and smooth. I mic'd it up. It didn't take much off. It just took off enough so that the bearing would fit. And you'll know that it doesn't work correctly because if it's got any high spots, these bearings are so precise, these needle bearings, if you have any high spots on that shaft, that needle bearing will not go into the drum. So here's assembly. You put on the oil pump pin, you screw it in until you see the oil pump start turning. Okay, see the oil pump turning? All right, that's on all the way. Okay, that's in. Then you proceed, you put the needle bearing on. I'm going to grease it later, but I just wanted to show you how it goes on. Okay, you put the needle bearing on. Then on the drum, if you notice, see the two cutouts on the side of the drum? That's what drives your oil pump. It goes into those two bars right there. So what you do is you put this on. All right. Once it goes on, now you rotate it till it clicks in. Watch. Oh, there you go. And now it's spinning freely inside the saw. Okay. And this is a Husqvarna. The hole on the end is just a center for machining the crank. It's not a through hole like on some steels that lubricate the needle bearing. This guy didn't lubricate the needle bearing. I recommend lubricating the needle bearing at least once a year with a good grease. This guy didn't do it. So now I'm going to grease that assembly. I'm going to put it in. And then I have a brand new, where is it? Where is it in the box? A brandy new clutch. Brandy new. And like I said, all these components, where's the receipt? Here's the receipt. All right. All these things right here. Look at the prices. $14.99 for that little plastic piece. $35 for the drum, which came with the needle bearing, and $46. So $96 in tax. Technically, $102.48. $102.48. So a lot of money for all that. The clutch drum will screw on. I just wanted to show you guys, if you have someone who is not lubricating their needle bearing, it's just a death sentence. Because if you look, as I showed you before, you're going to mangle the clutch. You're going to burn it up. I mean, this clutch is blue. I mean, totally blue. And the drum will melt as this one did. Look at that. That oil pump pinion is melted on. That ain't coming off. But this guy here, look at this. He had a brand new bar and chain on it. Look at that spur pinion there. I mean, come on. He should have replaced this drum a long, long time ago. Look at how blue the clutch is from the overheat. All right, that's it for now, guys. Make sure your drum goes on nice and easy. It spins nice. Look at that, beautiful. Grease up your bearings. Make sure everything's nice. Make sure your oil pump is turning. You can see it turning, okay? So I'm going to assemble this all together, see if it's oiling. I may come back with a video showing it oiling, but for this video right now. I just want to get it back together, see if it's oiling, get it back to the guy, get paid. It's been sitting in my garage for 4 months. All right. If I come back, I come back. If not, that's it for now. We'll talk to you soon. All right, we're back. I wasn't going to film it, but you know what? I'll film it. I have an Oregon grease gun that I use to push greaser, made in Germany. I had a boss years ago, Freddy Schamansky from Germany. He used to love a brand of grease called Kluber. Kluber is like the best grease you can buy. Very expensive. It was made in Germany. And we used to have a lubrication system on the machines we designed called a Preluber. And he would always say, the Kluber Preluber. So I call this my Kluber Preluber. All right, let's take the drum off. All right, let's get that bearing greased. I'm going to throw a bunch of grease. Where am I going to put the grease? Well, I could throw a bunch of grease on this thing for now. Huh. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take off the cap and just take some in my hand. Actually, you know what? Why isn't this thing pumping? It's supposed to, like you do. Well, you know what I'll do? If I go like this is just a center drill, but if this was a steel and you go like this, watch. You're going to see all the lube would get all over it. I'm going to pump this thing into my hand. Just pump a bunch of grease into my hand like that. You don't need a ton. All right. Let's get this thing greased up. You don't need a ton of grease, but you want to make sure all the rollers have grease. All right, and you want to make sure the shaft has grease. All right. All right, that bearing is greased. It is greased with the Kluber Preluber. All right. Now the drum, make sure you don't get any grease inside the drum, because that wouldn't be good. So we got to put the drum on and click it in, and the oil pump is spinning, so we know we're good. Now we can take the brand new clutch assembly. Again, don't put grease on the outside of the clutch. It don't like it. And they're good. They say off and on. So off is clockwise, which means it's a counterclockwise thread. All right. Counterclockwise. Do I have a tool for this one? No, but I'll put a piston stop in. I'll tighten it. But now that it's together, I'm going to go in the workshop. I'll tighten it down. I'll turn it on, and I'll see if the oiler's oiling out where the oiler's supposed to be oiling. All right, so I will be back. All right, guys. I made one little mistake here. What's missing? Those that know Husqvarna chainsaws are probably going, Kenny, what about the plate? The plate. Well, yeah, there's a plate that goes on to seal everything up before you put on. Keeps all the dirt out of the oiler and all that stuff. So I'll have to take this off and put that plate back on. But we'll get that done. That takes 2 seconds, no big deal. But one thing I did find is I took the muffler off because I wanted to check the piston initially. And this piston is in beautiful shape. No scores, no nothing. Real nice shape. Guy keeps it nice. But one thing I found, check this out, guys. If you look at the muffler, okay, you got a gasket and a heat shield. Look at the witness mark for the gasket on the heat shield. All right. He had this gasket on like this, covering up the part of the port. He had the screw in here, but that's the way the gasket was sitting on here. Well, if you turn it over, okay, look at how much of that gasket was sitting in the exhaust port. Holy cow. I bet you he was low on power, huh? Or at least it wasn't as much power as it could be. But as evidenced by the witness line, right? When he put the gasket in, he put one screw in, didn't put the other screw in. The thing fell, because that's the way it goes this way. So the gasket fell off like that. He was able to access the hole to put the other screw in, never realized it. And look at right there. Look at all that carbon. And look on here. All right, look at all that. That's about a 1/16 of an inch of carbon buildup. All right, look at that. Solid carbon buildup on there. Crazy. I'm going to clean that off, put the gaskets on right, and I'll install it properly on the muffler. But man, he was losing power. I've never seen that. Well, I've seen it in intake gaskets, but I've never seen anyone dump an exhaust gasket before where you're blocking off, you know, say 20% of the exhaust port. Man, he's going to get this saw back and say, Kenny, what'd you do? It's got a lot of power now. Well, yeah, it will. All right, we'll be back in a minute. So to make sure the gasket's in correctly and the bolts are out, I will put 2 wrenches in, one on either end, and hold them together while I insert this into the holes they belong in. That way, you're not inserting one screw, tightening it, and the other one falls out. This way I could just lift it up, keep tension on those screws so they're both extended, screw it into the saw. This way I know the gasket will not move. That's just a tip. That's what I do. Try it for yourself. All right, guys, here's the way I check the function of an oiler without having to turn on the chainsaw. So if it's early in the day or if you're inside and you don't want to turn on the saw, what I do is I take a drill and I put a rubber band on the end of the chuck, and then I go and I turn the drum with this and watch the oil. Here comes the oil. There you go. And this way I can prove that the oil works. You can see the oil's coming out, and that's how I prove that the oiler works without having to turn the chainsaw on. And anytime the drum powers the pinion for the oiler, like on steels and things like that, you can do it without having the engine on. Just a quick tip for you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Here we go. For those who don't want to spend the expensive money on sockets or destroying a socket to tighten a clutch, here's the poor man's clutch tightening tool. Just take a wrench that fits in there snugly, take an adjustable wrench, put your rope on the cylinder, and boom, there you go. You can tighten it. So combination wrench or spanner, they call them in the UK. Adjustable wrench, tighten it. You don't need the expensive $10, $12 socket. Use what you got. Quick tip. That's it for now. We'll talk to you soon.